This is Mac OS Ken.
Fresh air on the way, a couple of financial notes of note, an Apple Target state-sponsored spyware. It is Thursday, the 7th of July, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. If you're planning to buy one of Apple's upcoming M2-powered MacBook Airs, you may have plans for tomorrow. Apple issued a press release Wednesday saying that the new machine will go on order tomorrow, Friday, the 8th of July, with shipments and one assumes limited in-store availability set for the following Friday, the 15th. Available in Midnight, Starlight, Silver, and Space Gray, the off-the-rack machine will run buyers $1,199. Education pricing starts at $1,099. Online orders start this Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific, which just seems mean. The App Store is still growing, though that growth has slowed. That's the top line from Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty, not Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note she wrote. According to that, the issue is China, while the problem is missed expectations. Here's what happened. For the month of June, App Store revenue grew 9% or more year-on-year in 6 of the App Store's 10 largest markets. And yet, as a whole, growth in the App Store was only up 2.5%. Because China. According to the analyst, App Store net revenue growth in China inflected to a 6% year-on-year decline in the month of June. That accounted for more than 100% of the total App Store deceleration in June versus May, according to the note. That was unexpected. And of course, the unexpected tends to mess with expectations. For example, for the June quarter, Morgan Stanley had been expecting App Store revenue growth of 6%. They are now expecting 5%, a miss of about $67 million on someone's part. Worth watching, though not a huge source of worry, it seems. Morgan Stanley maintains an overweight rating on Apple shares. The firm's price target on the shares is $185. Even less worried than the folks at Morgan Stanley is Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote, wherein he predicted a modest beat by Apple for the June quarter. That's a beat of Wall Street expectations, not any stated expectations from Apple. As it's done since March of 2020, Apple declined to offer guidance for the most recent quarter thanks to #these times in which we live. Of course, last quarter is very last quarter. The way Daryanani sees it, the bigger focus will be September quarter guidance that we suspect could qualitatively be below current expectations, given a challenging foreign exchange environment and evolving macro situation. He's talking about war and inflation. 5 factors he sees figuring in. Weak Chinese smartphone data, down about 9% according to his note. App Store deceleration to roughly 4% growth. Micron and others flagging weakness in smartphone and PC demand. Foxconn data was a key positive data point, with Foxconn reporting strong June sales up 30% and raising its full-year guidance. And finally, there are foreign exchange dynamics, which are not looking great. Bottom line, Daryanani says he and his are relatively neutral this quarter, as we think Apple is contending with numerous headwinds, but these risks should be adequately understood and reflected in expectations. Neutral for the quarter, but still positive on the stock. Evercore has an outperform rating on Apple shares. The firm's price target on the shares is $180. And thus begins the parade of guessing, estimating. Okay, somewhere between guessing and estimating. Apple has set earnings for the June quarter, the third quarter of fiscal year 2022, for Thursday, the 28th of July. Numbers will go out after the close of trading at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Half an hour later, Apple will host its call with financial analysts. That'll be streamed live on Apple's investor page. It'll be available to replay there for a couple of weeks as well. Apple will make the call available as a podcast soon after, though that will also only be available for a couple of weeks. And of course, you can keep it right here, where lights high and low will be hit within hours of all of it. Interesting news/rumor reiteration around the next round of iPhones. TF International analyst Ming-Chi says Apple's top-end processors will be reserved for Apple's top-end phones, starting with this fall's iPhone 14. In a Medium post, the analyst said the latest A16 processor will be exclusive to two iPhone 14 Pro high-end models, significantly boosting the shipment proportion of new iPhone high-end models in the second half of 2022 to 55 to 60% versus 40 to 50% in the past. Not that his analysis is all about Apple and iPhone. Folks wanting the latest processor will end up buying iPhones with better cameras, which will end up being a bonus for manufacturers of those components. And this is the way it's going to be going forward, according to the analyst. Quoting the post again, the latest processor chip will be exclusive to iPhone high-end models in the future, so a high shipment proportion of iPhone high-end models will be the norm. I said earlier that this was news/rumor reiteration. A report back in March had the analyst saying that the two phones at the Pro end of the iPhone 14 line will sport Apple's A16 processor, while the phones at the consumer end will stay with the current A15. One Apple supplier appears to be out of the penalty box. Back in May, we heard word that Apple had sidelined iPhone display supplier BOE. That was prompted by BOE changing the design of its OLED panels without Apple's knowledge. BOE's place in Apple's supply chain seemed as much about leverage as actual supply, maybe more so. BOE was only expected to produce 30 to 40 million displays for the iPhone 14 line. While any disruption in the supply chain is serious these days, reports indicated that BOE was likely to be back in the mix, as having it in the loop keeps pressure on iPhone's primary display manufacturers, Samsung and LG. T's dotted and I's crossed, BOE seems to be back in Apple's good graces. A piece from iMore says Apple has approved OLED panels from display maker BOE, which will see the company make more than 5 million iPhone 14 panels ahead of the device's release in September. Again, that is not a huge amount when we're talking iPhone. TF International's Ming-Chi has said he's expecting manufacturers to take delivery of components for as many as 100 million iPhones through the end of this year. Still, BOE's return should be good for parts and leverage. No rest for the wicked, where wicked equals developers. Nothing personal, developers, it's just a figure of speech. While we heard earlier this week that Apple had made available to developer types the latest betas of current operating systems, work progresses on the next round of operating systems as well. To that end, a few pieces from Mac Rumors have Apple seeding the third betas of iOS and iPadOS 16, macOS 13 Ventura, watchOS 9, and tvOS 16 to developers. Because they are wicked and they get no rest. A couple of hardcore security moves from Apple on Wednesday. Well, announced by Apple on Wednesday. The Cupertino company issued a press release announcing a tool for potential targets of state-sponsored spyware, as well as a lot of money to study such threats. On the announced tool, Apple says lockdown mode will make its way to folks this fall inside iOS 16, iPadOS 16, and macOS Ventura. According to the release, lockdown mode offers an extreme optional level of security for the very few users who, because of who they are or what they do, may be personally targeted by some of the most sophisticated digital threats, such as those from NSO Group and other private companies developing state-sponsored mercenary spyware. Sounds like Apple's talking human rights activists, some journalists, heads of corporations maybe. Ivan Kirstik, Apple's head of security, engineering, and architecture, was quoted in a press release saying, "While the vast majority of users will never be the victims of highly targeted cyber attacks, we will work tirelessly to protect the small number of users who are. That includes continuing to design defenses specifically for these users, as well as supporting researchers and organizations around the world doing critically important work and exposing mercenary companies that create these digital attacks." Speaking of which, Apple has pledged $10 million, plus any damages it wins from its lawsuit against NSO Group, to support organizations that investigate, expose, and prevent highly targeted cyber attacks, including those created by private companies developing state-sponsored mercenary spyware. Administered through the Dignity and Justice Fund, the release says the first part of the $10 million grant is expected to go out to researchers by late this year or early 2023. And finally today, I have no idea how I missed this, but the Apple Original Films Skydance animation movie Luck hits Apple TV Plus in just under a month, and the company has released a full trailer for it. That's the part I missed. The trailer actually landed a little over a week ago. According to that trailer's description, Luck is a story about Sam Greenfield, the unluckiest person in the world. Suddenly finding herself in the never-before-seen land of luck, she must unite the magical creatures there to turn her luck around. The movie hits Apple TV Plus on Friday, the 5th of August. The trailer is available now on YouTube. macOS Can, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOScan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Can. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.